Just to give you an overview of this particular segment, it's going to be a series of video chats with two people I mentioned from the Urban Farm and Beginner, or the Urban Ag and Beginner Farmer program. And it's going to talk about how this started, what they're doing now, and they'll also talk about future programs. There are a couple of little clips about the crops and then crop damage. And I thought that was great to pull in because many of you, as I've reviewed the spreadsheet for the people who are involved in the in-person training, I noticed that many of you are interested in doing a garden at the school or somehow have been involved in that aspect of a community garden as well. So I'm hoping that those two little snippets give you some ideas that even though this is a university program, we all run into problems when it comes to crop damage and troubleshooting. So both of these segments will talk about how you can use that troubleshooting and tie it into STEM. So any problem you have, whether you have a small operation or a large operation, it's always a great learning opportunity. We'll talk about structures, facilities, outreach, education, and resources also. In both clips, I have highlighted their website so that you can go ahead and check those out. You can see what's on their website. And thank you, Taylor, so much for always including the web links in the chat boxes. That's been very helpful. To start out the initial program, I want to thank Taylor for everything you did, all your great ideas. She was a lead in the very beginning, and Kyle Harrington, you'll see him on the left. I'd say he did the heavy work. There were a lot of machinery, a lot of equipment they had to use, and Taylor and Kyle were out there doing the initial work together and troubleshooting a lot of times and getting this program started. Colleen Hanley and Tony Duarte also followed and came up and expanded on their ideas, created some new plantings, some new raised beds that they've incorporated into the program. And then we have to get here on the left, you see this team. This is Mario Eres and his amazing team from Eresgate Solutions. They have played a very important role in the construction and the design of this program, and they're very patient. I know Taylor and Kyle always appreciated working with them, and they've come through in a lot of what you would see through this video. They really contributed. Our newer members, Sharana Moore, we have her on the left in the bright yellow shirt. Jared Williams, you see him in this photo. Sarah Hipperson is also one of our newest members. And Trixie Struck, she's not in this photo, but she's going to introduce herself in this first video clip that you will see.
My name is Trixie Struck. I am an urban production manager here at the demo farm at Urban Agriculture and Small Scale Production at Cooperative Extension Office. This is our hoop house where we have a combination of garlic, Malabar spinach, daikon radishes, and watermelons. So we have a lot going on here. Before I get into that, a little bit about our program. We have a lot of ARCs. Primarily what I take care of is everything here at the demo farm for future instruction, classes, sometimes community outreach events we have here. Some of my other colleagues, they have different arms in terms of building curriculum and having resources to assist folks who are interested in getting into urban agriculture or small-scale production. So that's a little bit about our program.
That's wonderful. And I've heard that you are soon to receive some bleachers so you can do your outreach and education programs out here in the farm.
Yes.
So that'll be an exciting addition to the area out here, and I'm sure that will help to facilitate a lot of new ideas to add to your programs.
Oh, absolutely. We're very excited to have people to come out here and get their hands in the ground, but not just assist with how to to grow, but also getting future farmers the business education they need to.
That's
grow farm.
wonderful.
Mhm.
Great.
Can you share with me a little bit about what you're growing in here?
Oh, for sure. We have several different crops growing in here. Now, I'd say our main crop are watermelons, which you can see both over here and over here.
And why do you have them in these tomato cages? I'm curious about this. I've never seen them like this before.
Yeah, it's a pretty uncommon way to grow them. These watermelons are actually a dwarf sugar baby, so their vines don't grow as long. But we are a little limited in space in this hoop house. And watermelons don't tolerate walking damage as well as some other crawling, sprawling crops. And so what I wanted to do was let these watermelons sprawl on the ground and keep the ground cool, and then have these come up and then back down so they have chance to fruit on the ground, because these cages are not stable enough to hold a 10 and 9 pound melon. But it keeps our walking paths clearer, and then you'll have a generally healthier plant. As well as when you keep a lot of the foliage off the ground, it prevents leaf diseases.
Absolutely. I love that idea. Hey, can you tell me what happened with this melon?
Yeah, so watermelons are one of the crops that we're growing at here at the demo farm, and unfortunately with this melon, it was pierced. And so I was monitoring it for damage, because sometimes it'll heal over, and we can show you an example of that shortly, but as the days progressed, it just got wider and wider, and this is just going to be a fruit that will not, you won't be able to sell this at market. It'll probably mold, there might be bugs getting in there. And so it's just something we put aside and we'll throw in compost later.
And how often do you check your crops to see if there's any damage?
Yeah, I check every day.
Good.
You have to be out here every day at the farm, every work day. The demo farm, we are not here 7 days a week. We're typically here 5, maybe 6. And then sometimes on that 7th day that we're not here, you can notice a lot of damage because you weren't here to monitor. So it's something a hurdle that we have to kind of overcome. But we do it.
And your pests, what do you think caused that damage there? Was it weather? Was it a rodent or an insect?
Watermelons can have a tendency to rot if you don't turn them. However, it wasn't on the side. You can see this little yellow piece right here. That's typically something that was facing the ground and getting a lot of moisture. So it could have also had 2 of those spots. That's just one possibility. So I'm not too sure what might have caused this specific damage, but that's one possibility.
Okay.
And so just before we were talking a little bit about damage, sometimes it's salvageable, sometimes it's not. Right here we can see a little damage from mostly a borderline seed bug. They have a little poker, it kind of sits near their abdomen, and when plants are young they try and poke and get the seeds inside fruits. But usually if the damage isn't too severe and you get caught early, it'll heal right over. So this eggplant is totally salvageable. You can see that there's no gooey insides, unlike that watermelon. It's healed and scarred over, and you can sell this at market. Now, if you're running something like a larger scale farm rather than a small scale urban production, you'd rate fruits on, if it's 1, 2, 3, what would be better to sell to what market. But in an urban or small scale, this would just go straight to a farmer's market.
Okay. And what type of advice do you have for a person who may be in charge of a school garden? Who can they reach out to ask about the cause if they see damage on produce? What resources do you use, or could you serve as a resource for them?
I mean, our program would be one resource.
Excellent.
Definitely. We have experts here. I mean, myself, we have definitely people on staff to kind of help problem solve. I think definitely in regards to pest damage, knowledge is power. Local agriculturalists, sometimes there's even hobby groups. There's a lot of nonprofits out here as well, but I definitely recommend checking in with urban agricultural production. and small-scale farming here at UofA Cooperative Extension Office.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to look towards the future. I have 4 little clips, and these segments talk about their plans for the future, and Sharana also highlights some of the areas that she will focus on. And see, look at this in the corner. There's Mario building the greenhouse again. He's a good resource for us.
So right here we have 2 different variations of greenhouse. We have one that's in the process of being built. We have one behind me over there. However, we are going to repurpose one of these greenhouses. Right now we're planning for this. Might switch to that, so don't quote me. But we will repurpose one of these greenhouses in the form of a worm house. Well, we'll be doing vermicomposting. We'll be using a lot of these green clippings from our crops to feed the worms, and the worm poop will feed our crops. So it'll be a very circular system where we don't need to outsource amendments. And worms are just such a great beginner and urban farm tool. They don't require a lot of space. The startup costs are low. So we're excited on demonstrating how to do it.
Hi, I'm Sharana Moore. I'm an urban agriculture production manager for University of Arizona Cooperative Extension. I am mainly in charge of developing curriculum and programs for the Extension Office to teach small and beginning farmers. Right now, we are working on developing curriculum for teaching small farmers how to increase their overall profitability of their small-scale operations by adding things like flower production and bees to their property. So we're really excited about the programs that we're going to be bringing in the next year to the community. Also, we are working on creating a mobile farmers market that'll distribute and collaborate between local farmers distributing their produce directly from their farms to the communities that need it the most. And yeah, we're also working on creating an urban agriculture certificate program where you can come to our extension office or join us virtually and to learn how to be an urban farmer. So we know that we don't just need to grow food, we also need to grow farmers in order for our world to be well.
That is excellent. Thank you. I really liked your ideas that you shared with us. Would you expand a little bit on your plans to teach people about beekeeping, please?
Absolutely. So in Arizona, our beekeeping population has decreased dramatically. With the situation of Africanization of the bees, a lot of beekeepers don't want to deal with the bees because they've become so aggressive. So our
I'm sorry, I had a pop up there on my screen I tried to get rid of. So we're going to
program will not only teach farmers how to keep bees, but also how to turn that into a production and to make money from their beehives that they're keeping. We're going to go in depth from beginning, keeping bees, what kinds are best, but also zoning regulations, how to package your bees, labeling, your honey, labeling, and then basic business planning as well.
That is excellent. Do you know the level of interest that you have thus far? How many beekeepers? You said the numbers were going down.
We have about 5,000 in the state,
Wow.
but at one point there were over 20,000 beekeepers here in the state of Arizona. So now that the numbers have dropped so drastically, we are really trying to push our local farmers to keep bees and to bring their production back up so that we can meet the demands of the consumers. Everyone lately seems to have this huge interest in specialty honeys, and they're realizing the medicinal benefits of using honey instead of sugar. And so, with that being said, there's also an increasing market demand for honey in our area. We want our farmers to be able to take full advantage of not just producing honey, but also the bee byproducts, candles or bee pollen. Those are all, and those are all things that we can use from keeping our bees.
That is wonderful. I really like all the information that you provided, and I know that our viewers would really like to learn more. This is I think it's a half-day virtual presentation, and your segment is just a portion of it. But I bet after today they will have more questions, and as they develop their community gardens or even their interests outside of the classroom, or somehow if they want to incorporate information into their STEM programs, they might want to contact you. What is the best way to get a hold of individuals in your program?
If you would like to get a hold to anyone in the Urban Agriculture Department, you could go to University of Arizona, Maricopa Cooperative Extension. Our website is out there, and we have a staff listing or staff directory there where you can click on anyone's name, and it's going to give you their email address and their phone number, how to contact them. There are also ways to sign up for classes on the Extension's website. If you're interested in any of our classes as we develop them, check there regularly. Also sign up for our Cooperative Extension newsletter. It's going to give you huge amounts of information, little tidbits here and there of different topics that are related to urban agriculture, as well as search any publications on bees on the university's website as well.
Now, I noticed that you also have Wednesday webinars, and I don't know if that is the correct title that you're using. Are those recorded, or in the summertime will your program have more of those if teachers are interested in viewing some of those topics? I know you've done irrigation and you have some great guest speakers.
Absolutely.
How would they access those or keep in touch with you to learn about future programs?
Well, the best way to keep in contact and to learn about future programs is by subscribing to our newsletter. Our recordings, our web series are always recorded, so you can find them on our cooperative page. Also, sign up and subscribe and become our friends on social media, because we share a lot of photos there. A lot of our video series are also shared there. So yeah, just reach out to us however you can. Also, don't forget to sign up for our classes. We do have field days. Sometimes where you can sign up to come out to a farm, do a farm tour, find out more information about who's growing locally and what, as well as meet and talk to local USDA and NRCS representatives that can help you to navigate your way through small and urban farming.
And that reminded me, as you were talking about your farm field days, your presentations, your programs, and your outreach, those are offered throughout the county. Isn't that correct?
Throughout, not just Maricopa County, but every county's extension office offers programming and workshops, and there's opportunities to join in field days to have fun, learn about irrigation, crop planting, and all types of various topics that are of interest to people who love growing food like you and me.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, I wanted to highlight, I know she mentioned the website, so I wanted to show that here. I'm going to click, it'll circle the address up top. And again, Taylor is providing you information in the chat box. This particular link is on our website, extension.arizona.edu/urban-ag. And she mentioned their newsletter. At the very bottom here, you can click to subscribe to their newsletter. And then as you scroll down the page a little bit more, you'll see some of their other programs. They have programs in details. They have information on record keeping, introduction to produce safety, tracking weather, urban horticulture, introduction to plant diseases, urban ag and IPM, some programs for veterans, farm financial resources, and beginning rancher and farmer and soil health. And I know I missed a few of those as I was scattering, my eyes were zipping all over that, but as you can see, they have a lot of links that would hopefully provide you information that you may need as well. Again, I put that website on the side of this page in case you wanted to capture that so that you could see this page and review it. extension.arizona.edu/urban ag. Okay, and now what I will do is I am going to click out of this particular presentation. And I stopped sharing, so that's good because I can go ahead and if I share again, then hopefully the next presentation on the Snap Ed interview of Kaylee will pop up. And I'm going to hide this floating meeting control. And start the slideshow. And if somebody could give me feedback on what you're seeing on the screen.
It looks good, Jenny. You can see the first slide.
Perfect, thank you. This is our second and the last of this section. This is going to focus on the demonstration garden. Also out, as you can see behind Kaylee, this is Kaylee in this photo, and she just won our Employee of the Year award. So she was going to be here today too, but she had another commitment. Now I was going to ask if everybody could give her one of those applause emojis, but we'll just pass along the congratulations. But as you can see, their segment is really just right there adjacent to the farm that you just saw. And we're going to talk about the demonstration garden through the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And one thing that I think ties in nicely with Sterling's presentation is he mentioned how important it is to use technology and engineering in agriculture. And a couple of these snippets, these interviews with Kaylee, she worked with students, and you will see how important it was and how the students' knowledge of how to troubleshoot really came in handy. What you'll see, you'll get an overview of the SNAP Ed program. I know that this first clip, it's very short. It's a little bit shadowy and blurry, but the rest are a lot clearer. So I do know that this first one is going to be a little bit difficult to see. But as we move along, you'll learn also about tools, tips, and tricks that Kaylee has discovered through this program, and that gardening is a great learning tool for schools, teachers, and students.
Good morning, my name is Kaylee Necessary. I work at the University of Arizona Cooperative Extension Office in the SNAP Ed program called Arizona Health Zone. Our program provides nutrition and gardening education to SNAP eligible communities in Maricopa County. Our program focuses on three main areas. So we work in active living, food systems, and we also work in childhood and school health. As I mentioned earlier, we work in food systems, and that could include working with gardens and growers, sometimes even working with small farmers in our communities. We work a lot with community gardens, whether that's giving them the tools and resources to get a garden started and growing, building capacity within the group of community members who are starting the garden to make sure that they have everything they need for the garden to be sustainable and successful and to include community. We also work with school gardens, so that could look like partnering with teachers and administration to provide professional development through a train-the-trainer model. We do have a lot of curriculum that we can partner with teachers and train them in, and then also they can receive curriculum, like I said, around gardening and nutrition education. And then we also have a demonstration garden, which is what we're in right now. So this space could model a school or community garden, really. It has a ton of different examples of what could be done. And that's something that I really love about gardening, is that there's a billion different ways to do something. So it's almost impossible to be wrong, and everyone has something different to bring to the table. So I would say if you are on a team of teachers or community members who are starting a garden or working in a garden, your best resource is going to be other people and their experience and their wisdom and their knowledge. We have a lot to learn from each other, so I think that's like been my biggest tip for people. Just talk about it, see what other people are doing.
That's
and,
excellent.
There's also a ton of great resources statewide that I'm sure you've all seen for gardening. So just to highlight a couple different areas here, we have a couple different examples of beds. So I helped with a garden installation at an elementary school a couple months ago, and I brought enough supplies to do 2 different beds, and the students were able to decide which ones they wanted to build.
So I'm going to hide this floating bar, and then that'll give me the ability to move on to the next segment.
Okay, so I'm going to show you 2 different examples of beds that you could build at your school garden. Like I said, there's many different options, so these are just 2 options to consider. The first one is the most basic, and it's just using wood and screws to build a bed.
Okay, I'm going to zoom in on that. Don't mean to interrupt you, but I really like how you mention the material, so I'm zooming in, and feel free to keep explaining.
Okay,
Thank
cool.
you.
So this is kind of fun. I was just at a school garden installation at an elementary school a couple weeks ago, and I had a couple of 8th grade students that were really interested in learning how to use a drill. So that was a really good experience for them, and they felt very accomplished afterwards. And it obviously takes more time to teach some of those more technical skills with power tools, but it was a smaller group of about 8 students, and they just loved being able to do it, and then have their parents come back at an event later at the school and see the work that they have done. Another example of a bed is seen over here.
Okay,
And this is nice if you don't want to use any type of power tools. So all you need are the bricks. I think these are called like castle blocks. And then the wood, and the wood just fits into the side of the bricks like a puzzle piece. You can get these at like a box store. And it's pretty simple. I will say, like, if you have wood that's been sitting out for a long time and it's a little bit warped, it's kind of hard to make the bed square. So just a word of warning, if you are building this type of bed, don't leave the wood out or it will bend. And I'm saying that from experience.
Again, connecting with people who have experiences with gardening is perfect. So thank you.
But then at the same time, like the students that I was working with, we didn't have enough time to finish it, so we came back the next day, and we had a challenge that they had to figure out. The pieces wouldn't fit together, so I said, well, like, have at it, and they came up with a couple of innovative solutions to put the puzzle pieces together. So
That is excellent. That kind of really zooms in on the need to teach logical thinking and engineering and kind of understanding the resources that might or might not be available. So I really like that. That's a great example.
Yeah. And I can also note that we do have some shade cloths set up in the garden. I think this is the easiest way to set up shade in your garden, especially if you do have some summer school classes and you want to be still teaching in the garden, or maybe you want to start things at the beginning of the school year and it's still a little bit too warm. They need some shade to prevent the fruit from burning or just keep things cooler so the plant can thrive a little more. So this is just using PVC pipe, and then I never know what these are called. I call them U-clamps, but I always forget what they're actually called with like real terminology.
So
but
this lower corner here, is that what you, okay.
Yeah, just like these little clamps, but you can take it out really easily. There's actually one down at the bottom just for security, but it's really easy to install. And these are nice because you can take them off if you have a lot of students working in the bed and they get in the way. And we use them for a shade cloth, but you could also
The
In the
shade
cooler
cloth.
months, if you're out in more of a rural community or in a, if you're not in Phoenix and you need some protection from cooler weather, then you can also put a frost cloth on here in the same way.
Okay.
And you could also put an insect netting up, so
Great.
they're
And
kind of multi.
where did you get this shade cloth?
We got these from a local box store.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
So, not able to say where I got it from.
Yes.
So, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to do is we will go ahead and I'm going to look at, I'm going to start to record some of the great produce that you have.
Okay.
And then you can tell us why you selected the produce for this season or what you
Yes.
see growing. Thank
Yes.
you.
Okay, so we have some peppers, some chilies growing here. Last year our team grew a lot over the summer because we do a lot of food demonstrations and taste tests with schools and community groups at events. But this summer we decided to just keep it really simple and grow things that we know will grow really well and are really low maintenance. And one of the things that we chose to grow was a chili. And this is fun because you can actually dry them out and you can talk about the role that they play in some of our community's cultures and then also learn how to dry. So it's another like preservation
That's
technique.
wonderful. I'm going to zoom in on your pepper here. That is nice and bright. Let's see if I can get a good shot. Hopefully I'm not giving people motion sickness as I get in here. Yeah, those look great. Oh, look at these over here. Ah, there we go. There's some nice chilies. Wow. Okay. And then I'm going to zoom out a bit also. Thank you.
Yeah, and I was just going to mention too, we had one of my coworkers' daughters came into the garden to help us lay all this mulch down, and she was looking at everything and she said like, oh, why does that plant look, or maybe someone asked her like, why does that plant look different than all the other plants? This one looks smaller and it just looks kind of puny, and she made the observation that, oh, it's actually in the sun a lot more than the other ones. So I think even though like this plant, we have some things going on with it, it's not thriving as well as maybe it could be, it's still a good learning opportunity, and she was able to make that observation on her own.
Wow, that is wonderful.
Okay, and this is the last clip for this section, and then I'll show you the website.
So now I'm going to share a little bit about the irrigation that we have here, but I'm going to move in the shade so that I don't end up like this plant right here, shrivel up. So we have a couple different examples of how you could put irrigation into your garden. In my opinion, that's the best way to have success in your school garden, is to have an automated irrigation system. Say that you have a classroom that's hand watering the garden beds with a watering can or something. That works great and it's a great way to get students involved, but what happens if it's too hot outside to go out, or you have a day off school, or who's going to water on the weekends? You know, in Phoenix at least, you can't really skip a day of watering even in the wintertime. So having an automated system is really handy and helpful. You can have a really simple system with a timer set up on the end of a hose bib that waters your beds for you. So you program it to go off, once or twice a day for a certain amount of time. We actually have a battery powered system basically here that is controlled by that timer box over there. And we have 3 different zones. So a lot of times school gardens will have fruit trees, and then they'll have their raised garden beds, and usually those are on the same line, meaning that they'll get the same amount of water for the same amount of time. But we know that those are 2 different plants, so 2 different types of things growing in those areas, so they need they have different needs for watering. So here in the garden we have 3 different zones set up. One zone will water all of the raised beds. One zone will water all the pots along the fence line, and then one zone will water any fruit trees that we have growing in the garden.
I'm just going to show them the pots there that you have. Great. Oh, we hadn't caught those in the background quite yet. That's
Yeah, and there's different ways to set your irrigation up. So just quickly here we have these 1/4 inch, some people call them spaghetti lines, but they just go along the bed. There's certainly other ways to set up irrigation. I really love irrigation because there's no one right way to do it. So it's kind of like a puzzle, and I have some high school students that I work with that are really interested in irrigation because it gives them the opportunity to be creative and problem solve. Another benefit or another thing to consider is that at the edge of this bed, and you can probably see it better over there, but I actually have a shut-off valve, so if there is a leak or something, then I could turn this water off while the rest of the garden still gets water.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And finally, I can just share one more thing that I think is really unique about our garden. I'm gonna go in the shade again.
Okay, yes.
We do have a commercial kitchen here on site, and we have a food demo coordinator, so that's very much like incorporated into what we do. Like, it's not just we do the food demos and then we do the garden work. We try to blend everything together as much as possible.
That's wonderful.
So, just one example of some of the work that we're doing, we work with a high school in Maricopa County, and we have a group of high school students that have been out in the garden, and then they've also been learning some cooking and life skills classes in the classroom with our food demo coordinator. So next year we've been talking with the teacher. We're really hoping that they can come out here, they could harvest some of the produce with us in our garden, and then we could have like a field trip, and then they go inside and use the vegetables to cook in the
That's wonderful. That sounds like a great program. And I really like talking to you today and learning more about your program. But what I'm fascinated with is all of the unique situations you've had where students have learned, as we had talked a little bit earlier, coming up with Plan B. That's life. That's a life lesson. But you've also tied in some ideas on how our viewers today can think about irrigation, construction of the beds, and how that might tie directly in with engineering. Certainly they'll need to use some math as well as they're calculating irrigation and consider the different needs of different plants. So thank you so much. You've provided a great interview that I've enjoyed, and I'm sure that all of the participants, the viewers today, will as well. So thank you. Kaylee, what is the best way that teachers can reach you? I also know you mentioned you would be viewing the virtual presentations,
Yes.
so you are available to answer questions probably through the chat, or we'll see what happens on Monday, definitely. But what is the best way to reach out to you if teachers want to become involved or ask if you serve their community in their schools?
Definitely. So I would say the best way to see if your school is qualified to work with our program, and I will say that AZ Health Zone is in almost every county in Arizona, so if it's not us, it may be someone else. But our specific website is behealthyaz.org. And then there's also the Arizona Health Zone website. I think it's AZ Health. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, that's perfect.
And then we also have a Facebook page and an Instagram and stuff. So
wonderful.
You can catch up on things going on there.
Great. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to share your information with us, and it was a really educational for me, and I thank you.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed those interviews. And Kaylee did tell me that Gina's on the line, and that Gina has zoomed in. And if there are questions in the chat, hopefully she can answer those questions. But what I'm going to do is I'll scroll through their website as I had done, grammar check, in the previous section. We have one of the websites that she had mentioned was behealthyaz.org, the Be Healthy Arizona program. This contains resources for teachers and educators. I'm going to go ahead and click so it can circle that website up above. Again, that's behealthyaz.org. And then as you scroll down the page a little bit more, that Delmy Ortega is a great contact. That's right up there on the top. She coordinates that program, and it says, for help determining if you or your site is eligible for our services, contact Delmy Ortega. The interesting thing is I had a short clip. Kaylee was talking about the different schools. They work in different zip codes. And then we had a garbage truck drive by very loudly. And so it was not a good recording, but certainly if you're interested in this program, contacting Delmy, or if Gina is on and she can include some key contact information in the chat, that would be helpful also. But you can look at this website and you see that they have clickable options to learn about the food systems program, childhood and active living, which will be coming soon. And some other links over here in the right, general for cooperative extension, AZ health zone.